You were so close to giving up, so close to walking away from everything. The prayers, the faith, the sleepless nights filled with silent tears and whispered questions. You were tired, and rightfully so, because not everyone sees what you've been carrying behind that quiet smile. But God did. He saw it all. He saw you when no one else was looking. He heard what no one else could hear. And now, he says, you passed. Not because you were perfect, not because you didn't stumble, but because you didn't let go. Even when your faith trembled, you clung to Him. Even when it didn't make sense, when heaven felt silent and the world mocked your patience, you still waited, still trusted, still believed that God had a reason. And that, beloved, is what heaven calls victory. You didn't know it was a test. It wasn't announced. There was no warning bell, no angelic sign that said, "This is it. This is the moment that will define your future." It came quietly, in the form of delay, in the weight of disappointment, in the pain of unanswered prayers. That's how God tests hearts, not with lightning bolts or parted seas, but with the soft silence of waiting, with the ache of discipline, with the fire of letting go and still loving Him. And you passed through the fire. You didn't see it, but there were moments you were surrounded by angels, just watching, recording, waiting, not to condemn you, but to celebrate the day your soul finally chose surrender. You didn't just survive, you grew, you stretched, you let some things break off of you even when it hurt. You let people walk away even when your heart screamed for them to stay. You forgave, not because they deserved it, but because you knew the weight was not yours to carry. You became lighter, not weaker. You became softer, not smaller. You became silent, but never invisible to heaven. And now, the silence is breaking. God is speaking. "My child," says the Lord, "you passed what many others would have failed. You endured where others walked away. You stayed when others gave up. I saw your tears, and none of them were wasted." You didn't always know how to pray the right way. Sometimes your words were messy, desperate, barely whispers. Sometimes your faith flickered like a candle in the wind. But even then, you were looking for God. And that's what matters to Him. Because it was never about performance. It was always about the posture of your heart. And when you didn't even have strength to reach, you still turned your face toward Him. That was the test, and you passed. But now comes the shift. Heaven is opening. The waiting is ending. The reward isn't just something you'll receive, it's something you've already become. Because this version of you, the one who prays through pain, the one who chooses love over bitterness, the one who worships while bleeding, that version is the miracle. That version is the reward. So don't expect fireworks. Expect favor. Don't look for applause. Look for alignment. Watch as doors open, not because you pushed, but because you obeyed. Watch how people begin to treat you differently, not because you changed your words, but because the weight of heaven is now on your voice. You passed a test you didn't even know was happening. Now, the world will see the results. And God says, I can trust you now with more. I can place things in your hands now that you'll hold with humility. I can send people to you because you'll love them with my heart and not your ego. You've been refined. The crushing wasn't punishment, it was preparation. The silence wasn't rejection, it was reinforcement. The loss wasn't cruelty, it was clarity. You were never losing, you were shedding. And now you're ready. You may feel the same, but heaven knows you are not. You're wiser, gentler, sharper. You speak slower, but with fire. You walk lighter,
but carry more weight. Because fire changes things. So does hunger. So does waiting. And the ones who walk through those seasons and still don't quit, they become heaven's messengers. That's who you are now. There are moments when you feel forgotten, overlooked, like your prayers have fallen into a void with no reply. But God says, not one moment slipped past me. Heaven has taken note, not just of what you've endured, but how you endured it. You didn't just walk through fire. You walked through fire without cursing my name. You didn't just cry. You cried and still said, God, I trust you. And that moved heaven. While others mocked your journey, while friends walked away, while doors slammed shut, while the enemy whispered, where is your God now? You kept showing up. You kept praying, kept forgiving, kept hoping in the dark. You weren't perfect, no, but you were persistent. And in God's kingdom, persistence is power. God says, while you were busy surviving, I was recording your resilience. You may not feel holy. You may not feel chosen. But heaven isn't run by feelings. It's run by truth. And the truth is this: you are chosen. You are trusted. You are seen. You are approved. And this is no longer a season of being tested. This is a season of being trusted. Because God only promotes those He has proven. He only gives authority to those He've proven they won't abuse it. You've passed through the fire and didn't come out bitter. You've been betrayed and didn't become cruel. You've been misunderstood and didn't harden your heart. Heaven saw that. Now listen carefully. Your name has been mentioned in rooms you've never entered. Your purpose has been discussed by angels. There is a movement coming, not one you created, but one God is orchestrating. And guess what? You're part of it. You didn't ask for it. You didn't chase it. You were too busy healing. But because you remained faithful in the hidden place, God is calling you into the visible one. This next season, it won't be about begging for blessings. It will be about walking in what is already written. Favor will find you. Opportunities will seek you. People will come to you not for your charisma, but for your anointing. Because the test was never about what you could gain. It was always about what you would become. And you have become a vessel that can carry revival, a heart that can carry compassion, a voice that carries weight, a spirit that refuses to bow to fear. Do you know what God calls that? A trusted one. And He only reveals His secrets to those He trusts. You're going to feel it. That sudden lift in your spirit, the strange peace that doesn't match your surroundings, the divine coincidences, the quiet knowing that this is not random. This is divine alignment. Because when God says, you passed my test, He doesn't just hand you a certificate. He opens the windows of heaven. Get ready. You will walk into rooms where the atmosphere shifts. You will speak and it will silence storms. You will pray and things will break in the unseen. Not because of who you are, but because of what you carry. You carry proof that surrender works. You carry evidence that faith still moves mountains. You carry testimony that God still answers even if it takes time. And because of that, others will come, hungry, wounded, searching, and God will trust you to feed them. You are no longer a survivor. You are a deliverer, a healer, a lighthouse. You're the one who walks through storms so you can guide others out of their own. And don't worry, you won't be empty. God's going to keep refilling you in secret, even while you're pouring out in public. He knows how to sustain his warriors. God says, because you didn't abandon me in the valley, I will elevate you on the mountain. Because you didn't rush ahead of me, I will accelerate your steps. Because you waited, now watch what I release. This is not the end of your journey, it's just the moment where everything begins to make sense. And all the pain, all the silence, all the testing, it now becomes your oil. There's something sacred about being known by God. Not just tolerated, not just included, but known. He doesn't just see your actions, he understands your heart behind them. He knows the days you were barely standing and still stood. He knows the nights you wept in silence and still whispered, I trust you.
And now he says, your name has been spoken in heaven. You didn't know it, but while you were praying, while you were serving quietly, while you were forgiving in private and choosing integrity over attention, heaven was talking about you. Not for what you did once, but for what you kept doing, even when no one noticed. There are rewards that come from faithfulness, but the greatest reward is this. God has decided he can trust you. That's why the shift you're sensing is not your imagination. That change in the atmosphere, that stirring in your spirit, that awareness that something is about to happen, it's real. Because the test is over and the assignment is beginning. You are not entering a season of random blessings. You are stepping into a season of divine appointment, a time where your obedience will collide with God's orchestration, where all the waiting, all the stretching, all the crushing, it will start to reveal its purpose. Because the test was never about pain. It was about preparation. Listen carefully. You are not who you used to be. Yes, you still look the same. You still walk the same halls. People still see the surface. But heaven sees the roots. You're deeper now, stronger now, humbler, wiser, cleaner. Your spirit no longer panics when storms come. You've learned to rest in the eye of the hurricane. You've learned to praise with a broken heart. You've learned how to bleed without becoming bitter. And that is power. Do you know how rare that is? To come out of a storm still soft? To love after betrayal? To worship after heartbreak? To believe after silence? God says, you passed the test not by being the strongest, but by refusing to quit. And now, I can use you. Because the truth is, some blessings are too heavy for untested hands. Some callings are too costly for uncrushed hearts. But you were tested. You were pressed, and you still said yes. So now the weight of glory can rest on you. You won't fumble it. You won't abuse it. You won't use it for yourself, because now you know what it cost. This next season, it's not about becoming something new. It's about revealing who you've become. You were transformed in the dark, shaped in silence, strengthened in obscurity. Now God says, it's time for them to see what I've done in you. Not for applause, not for clout, but because someone out there needs the healed version of you. Your scars, they're sermons now. Your survival, it's someone else's hope. Your quiet faith, it's someone else's rescue map. God's about to use everything, not just your victories, but your valleys. Not just your healing, but your heartbreak. Not just your confidence, but even your confusion. Because people don't need perfect. They need real. And you, beloved, are real. You've walked through hell and didn't come out angry. You've lost things you thought you'd never live without. You've cried prayers that still haven't been answered.
And you're still here, still believing, still showing up, still loving God even without explanations. That's what makes you dangerous to darkness. You don't need to prove yourself. God's favor will speak for you. His fingerprints will be all over your future. Doors will open not because of who you know, but because of who you belong to. So stop looking back. Don't revisit what God rescued you from. Don't rehearse what He already redeemed. Don't apologize for becoming lighter, clearer, freer. You passed the test. Now walk like it. God says, "You're about to see me move in ways you didn't ask for. You're about to see fruit in places you planted with tears. You're about to see favor flow where there used to be fight. Because when the test ends, the testimony begins, and yours will shake the silence." You've lived through some things that should have broken you: loss, rejection, loneliness, delay. But somehow, by the grace of God, you're still standing. And not just standing, you're stronger, wiser, quieter, but sharper. Not everything about you is loud anymore because pain taught you to listen. Not everyone has access to you anymore because storms taught you who was real. You've changed, not out of pride, but out of preservation. Because what you survived, most people don't come back from that the same. But here's the mystery of God's goodness. He didn't just bring you through it. He's about to reward you for how you walked through it. Not with things, but with transformation. Not with applause, but with authority. Not with attention, but with access. Access to peace. Access to discernment. Access to people who see you, not just use you. Access to opportunities that align with your calling, not distract you from it. This is your new reality. Because when God says you passed my test, He doesn't just mean you survived. He means you qualified. Now let's be honest. You didn't always feel strong. There were nights when you barely held it together. Days when you questioned everything. Moments when you told God, "I can't do this anymore." But He answered with silence. Not because He didn't care, but because He was watching. He was watching what choice you'd make when you felt abandoned. He was watching what words you'd speak when you felt crushed. And you chose surrender. Again and again and again. And that's what passed the test. Heaven is not impressed with performance. It responds to posture. When others lashed out, you bowed. When others ran, you waited. When others cursed, you praised. And while people didn't notice, heaven did. God did. And now He says, "What I release to you now, no man can take away. No lie can cancel. No demon can delay. Because I myself have declared, you passed." So walk in that confidence. Not arrogance, not ego, but the quiet, unshakable confidence of someone who knows God is backing them. Because you've been through what most will never understand. You've cried prayers that words couldn't hold. You've sacrificed when no one was watching. You've died to dreams so that His could live. You let Him break you. And now, He's going to bless you in the very places you were once broken. You're about to be restored in front of the very places that hurt you. That job that rejected you, God is about to provide better. That relationship that broke you, God is about to show you real love. That season that almost ended you, God is about to make it the start of your story. And not for revenge, not to boast, but to prove one thing: God never forgets those who remained faithful in the fire. You didn't beg your way into this breakthrough. You didn't manipulate your way to the miracle.
You didn't compromise for the calling. You stayed planted. You remained faithful. You trusted the process. And now, God says, I am opening doors because your hands stayed clean. I am lifting you because your heart stayed soft. I am rewarding you because you remained mine, even when it hurt. This is the kind of blessing that doesn't fade, the kind that doesn't get stolen. This is the type of favor that flows after fire, the kind of authority that can only be worn by those who've bled without bitterness. You are no longer in the proving grounds. You are in the releasing zone. What's coming next isn't about becoming something new. It's about revealing who you've become. You were transformed in the dark.
So when it comes, don't shrink. Don't apologize. Don't second guess if you're ready, because you are. God says you are, and heaven never lies. You are stepping into the fruit of your faithfulness. Heaven is cheering, angels are aligning, and God is smiling, not because you never failed, but because you never gave up. You passed the test. Now step into the testimony. Some people thought you missed it. They looked at your delay and called it denial. They watched your waiting and assumed you were wasting. They saw the wilderness and whispered, maybe God changed his mind. But they didn't see what God saw. They didn't know the battle you were fighting in silence. They didn't feel the weight you carried in your spirit night after night. But God did. And today, he says, my yes over you still stands. My hand is still on you. My promise still breathes. You haven't missed your moment. You were being prepared for it. See, the world counts time in minutes and months, but God counts by maturity, by growth, by surrender. And while others rushed ahead, you allowed God to do a deeper work. They built platforms. You built altars. They built brands. You built intimacy. And now God is saying, it's your turn. This isn't hype. This is heaven. This isn't a trend. This is truth. God doesn't elevate randomly. He elevates those who have been hidden long enough to handle what's coming. And you didn't just wait. You grew while you waited. That's why this next season will feel different. You won't feel desperate. You won't feel anxious. You won't chase it. It will chase you. Because heaven's yes has already been spoken and it cannot be reversed. You've carried the burden. Now you'll carry the blessing. You've held on through the night. Now you'll step into the morning. You've sacrificed what others held on to. Now you'll be trusted with what they'll never touch. This isn't just your reward. This is your assignment. This is your launching. God isn't just releasing things to you. He's releasing things through you. Doors are going to open, not because you pushed them, but because he declared them open. You're not going to force your way in. You're going to walk in like you belong there. Because now, you do. You didn't skip steps. You didn't compromise. You didn't manipulate outcomes. You surrendered. You trusted. You allowed God to build the foundation in silence. And now, he will build the platform in the light. Get ready to be surprised. Not by problems, but by provision. Not by warfare, but by wonders. Not by breakdowns, but by breakthroughs. God is going to start showing up in the places you least expect. He's going to send people who carry keys. He's going to align moments that feel too divine to be coincidence. But don't be shocked. Just remember, you passed the test. This is what comes after obedience. And yes, warfare may still come, but this time you'll fight differently. You won't panic. You won't plead. You'll speak with authority. You'll declare peace in the storm. You'll carry such weight in the spirit that demons will recognize you, not because you're loud, but because you're anointed. You won't need to prove anything. Your presence will say it all.
And what's more, God says, I will redeem the years. I will restore the time. I will honor the tears you cried in silence. Nothing was wasted. Not the heartbreak, not the disappointment, not the confusion. All of it has become the oil on your life. And that oil will not just bless you, it will heal others. You're not just a survivor, you're a healer now. You're not just a witness, you're a vessel. You're not just a believer, you're a carrier of heaven's authority. So lift your head. You're not the same version of you who started this journey. You're cleaner, you're clearer, you're covered in grace. And when people ask, how did you get here? You'll say, God trusted me with a test, and I trusted him with my tears. This is your confirmation. This is your release. You passed the test. Now walk in what was always yours. The seal is set, the yes is final, and the gates are open. God didn't just let you survive. He strategically walked with you through it. Every betrayal, every heartbreak, every silence. And now he's turning that story into a weapon. Not a weapon to harm, but to heal. Not a sword of vengeance, but a banner of victory. You cried, God, why this pain? He answers, because I needed to give your story weight. There are people who need what you carry now, not your perfection, not your image, your scars. Because your scars speak a language no sermon can. They say, I've been through it, and I'm still here. They say, I didn't see the way, but I trusted the one who is the way. They say, I passed a test I didn't sign up for, and so will you. You didn't know it, but every step you took in obedience was planting a seed, and now the harvest is coming, not just for you, but for those watching your life from a distance. You don't even know who's been secretly inspired by your refusal to quit. You don't even realize who's held on because you kept showing up. But God does. And he says your testimony has become a trail for others to follow. You thought the reward was money. You thought it would be influence, comfort, ease. But no, the real reward is that God now trusts you with people, broken people, hungry people, lost people, because you've been those people. And now you know how to love them the way he loved you, gently, faithfully, patiently. This is ministry. This is kingdom. This is why you were tested, not to punish, but to prepare. Your voice has power now, not because it's loud, but because it's anointed, because it comes from a place of experience, because you don't preach theories, you live truth. You know what it means to have nothing and still praise. You know what it means to be rejected and still forgive. You know what it means to wait and still trust. That's what makes you dangerous to darkness and valuable to heaven. This is why the attacks were so intense. The enemy wasn't afraid of your past. He was terrified of your future, because if you passed this test, he knew you would carry a kind of glory that couldn't be shaken. And you did. You passed. So now the kingdom shifts. You're no longer waiting for God to use you. He's already using you. And don't be surprised when God starts calling you deeper. Don't be surprised when he stretches you again. This time it won't feel like punishment. It'll feel like preparation for greater. Because you're not the same anymore. You've proven that you're not led by applause. You're not manipulated by rejection. You're not distracted by shiny things. You've been refined. And now he can entrust you with more. Expect divine appointments. You'll walk into rooms where people feel peace just by your presence. You'll be given opportunities you didn't ask for because your character called for them. You'll speak words that unlock healing in others, not from head knowledge, but from holy fire.
Because God says, the very pain you thought disqualified you has become the oil I now pour through you. You are no longer just someone who prays. You are someone who carries presence. You are no longer trying to be used by God. You are walking in it. No need to strive. No need to explain. No need to push. Your life is the explanation. Your survival is the statement. Your peace is the testimony. Your worship is the victory cry. So stop doubting. Stop shrinking back. Stop asking if you're ready. God already settled it. You passed the test. Now take your place. And remember, your story isn't over. You are still being written, but now you write from a different place. From faith, not fear. From strength, not shame. From overflow, not emptiness. This is the beginning of impact. And it all started when you chose to trust even when nothing made sense. That one decision changed everything. God didn't choose you by accident. You were always the one marked for something more, the one who didn't quite fit, the one who asked deeper questions, the one who felt things too heavily, the one who stayed awake at night, not chasing fame, but chasing God. Yes, you. You've always carried something, even when you didn't understand it, even when others didn't see it, even when your reflection looked tired and unqualified. God whispered, "That's the one." And that's why your test was so personal, because your assignment is so specific. God didn't test you to expose you. He tested you to trust you. He needed to see, would you stay faithful when it hurt? Would you choose purity when no one was watching? Would you keep worshiping when there was no breakthrough? You did. And now heaven is responding. You don't need to shout it from the rooftops. God is already announcing you in ways you can't see. He's going ahead of you. He's setting tables. He's preparing hearts. All you have to do is keep showing up. Not as someone trying to prove themselves, but as someone who already carries approval from the King of Kings. You've already been stamped by heaven. Now walk like it. What's coming next will require a deeper version of you. But don't be afraid. You already became that version. In the dark, in the waiting, in the fire. God didn't waste one tear. Not one rejection, not one silent night. He used them all to build you. And now, you're built different. People might not recognize this version of you. That's okay. They weren't in the wilderness with you. They didn't see the nights you stayed up interceding. They didn't hear the prayers you prayed that shook the walls of your room. But God did. And now, He's about to reveal the evidence. God says, I am unlocking the next level for you, not because you're perfect, but because you're positioned. Positioned in humility, positioned in obedience, positioned in surrender. You've been forged, not just formed. You're not plastic, you're steel. You're not shallow, you're rooted. You're the kind of person storms respect, because you've been through them and didn't change who you are. Let them wonder. Let them ask, how did you get here? You'll just smile and say, I waited when it was hard. I trusted when it was dark. I passed a test heaven sent, and now I walk in heaven's favor. This isn't about status. This is about stewardship. You will be trusted with moments that matter, words that matter, people that matter. Because now, you're not desperate for the spotlight. You're ready to shine light where it's needed most. No more hiding, no more shrinking, no more wondering if you're good enough. You are not just enough, you're chosen. You've been shaped by the hand of the Father, and what He shapes, no man can destroy. So go ahead and take that step.
Write the book, launch the ministry, start the project, reach the person, speak the word. Don't wait for a second confirmation. God already said yes. He said yes when you forgave instead of fought. He said yes when you stayed instead of ran. He said yes when you trusted instead of quit. You passed the test. Now live like the one who did. You've made it through the wilderness. Now step into the promised place, not just physically, but spiritually. No more anxiety over timing. No more comparison. No more wondering if you missed your moment. This is your moment, and heaven is watching. There is a shift happening. You can feel it, not in your schedule, but in your spirit. The weight you carried, it's lifting. The fog you walked through, it's clearing. The delay you wrestled with, it's breaking. This is where it turns. This is where the page flips, where the night ends, where the wilderness gives way to the path, and the promise begins to reveal itself. God is saying, the test is over. Now comes the reversal. Reversal of shame, reversal of fear, reversal of every lie that tried to convince you that God had forgotten you. Because the truth is, He never took His eyes off you. Even when the silence felt like abandonment, even when the tears felt unanswered, even when people questioned your faith, and you began to question yourself, He was closer than your breath. And now, He's moving in ways that make it clear you didn't miss it, you mastered it. You mastered how to praise in pain. You mastered how to stay planted when everything said run. You mastered how to stay silent when your flesh wanted to scream. You mastered how to love when you had every reason to hate. And now, God is saying, I can trust you with more. Because if you can honor God in the valley, you're ready to represent Him on the mountain. And He's not just giving you blessings, He's giving you responsibility. Not to impress, but to impact. Because someone needs what's inside you now. Someone needs the wisdom you earned through your weeping. Someone needs the presence you cultivated in your private pain. You didn't go through all this for nothing. God is about to multiply your scars into strategy for others. Get ready for people to start coming to you for guidance, not because of titles, but because of testimony. Not because of fame, but because of favor. They'll say, I don't know why, but I feel safe here. And you'll know, it's not you. It's the glory you carry. It's the quiet confidence that comes from surviving things that should have killed you. You are now a refuge, a resting place, a vessel of God's peace. And that's why hell fought you so hard. You're not just a believer anymore. You're a builder. You're a breaker of cycles. You're the first in your family to pass this kind of test, and that has weight in heaven. You've built an altar in a place where others only saw ashes. And now God says, I'm lighting the fire. I'm drawing attention to what I've built in you. You were faithful in the shadows. Now, watch me bring you into the light. Don't flinch when things accelerate. Don't panic when blessings start arriving faster than expected. This is not a trap.
This is harvest. Because you didn't just pass the test, you passed it with humility. And humility is the password for kingdom promotion. You didn't demand the crown, you carried the cross. You didn't chase the stage, you chased the Spirit. You didn't seek influence, you sought intimacy. And that's why your influence will now be pure. Your steps will now be ordered. Your reach will now stretch beyond what you imagined. This is your confirmation. You were tested. You were trusted. Now you are released. So stop second-guessing your gifts. Stop wondering if it's too late. Stop waiting for another sign. This is the sign. The peace you feel, that's God. The stirring in your belly, that's God. The ideas waking you up at night, that's God. He's reigniting the dream. He's restoring what was stolen. He's redeeming the time. Because the test has ended, now comes the testimony, and it will speak loudly without a single shout. There is a moment in every believer's life, a moment when the trial ends and the training reveals itself, a moment when what was once a battlefield becomes a launch pad. That moment is now. God is not just lifting you, He's announcing you. You will begin to walk in rooms you didn't network for, be mentioned in conversations you never initiated, get called into places that had no idea you existed until heaven whispered your name. Because now, heaven is open over your life. You paid the price, not with money, not with connections, but with tears, with integrity, with quiet decisions when no one was clapping. And God says, I have seen it all, and now I reward in full. You didn't just pass the test, you passed it with character, with surrender, with faith that refused to fold. There's a new sound being released from your life, a sound that says, I've been through the fire, and I still worship. I've been betrayed, and I still bless. I've been disappointed, and I still trust. And that sound, it scares hell. It moves heaven. It shakes the earth. Because that sound is not religion, it's revelation. You've discovered who God really is, not just in church, but in the crushing. Now watch how the atmosphere responds to you. Watch how your words begin to carry weight. Watch how your presence calms chaos in others. Watch how even your silence carries peace. Because heaven has rested something on your life that can't be explained, only experienced. And you're not going to have to fight for visibility. God is giving you impact. This is divine fulfillment. This is the fruit of obedience, the harvest of surrender. And it won't look like everyone else's breakthrough because your path has never looked like theirs. What's coming won't be copy-paste, it'll be custom-made, designed for your calling, built to match your capacity, tailored for your story. And it will be unmistakably God. Get ready to stand where you once fell, to speak where you once stuttered, to build where you once broke, to shine where you once shrank. Because God says, what once shamed you will now become your stage. What once haunted you will now become your healing weapon. You thought it was the end, but God was just pausing the page. The story is turning, and what's written next is revival. You are a walking miracle, a living testimony, proof that God still answers, still restores, still chooses the unlikely, still anoints the overlooked. You don't need to be loud. You don't need to convince anyone. Your transformation is your explanation. And now, God says, let the wind of my spirit carry you. Let the weight of my glory rest on you. Let the world see what heaven already knows. You are ready. So walk boldly, worship freely, love deeply, give generously, serve humbly, because this is just the beginning of everything God has prepared for you.
You're not walking into a dream, you're stepping into a divine reality, a promise fulfilled, a heart refined, a soul on fire. And this is what passing the test looks like. You did it. Not because you were the strongest, not because you had all the answers, not because you always knew where this was going, but you didn't let go. You held on to the hem of his robe. You held on to the whisper when the thunder was silent. You held on to hope when everything screamed, give up. And now God says, this is your reward. Not just what I give you, but who you've become in me. You are no longer the same. You've been changed in the furnace, purified in the pressure, refined in the crushing. What once broke you now built you. What once delayed you now defines you. What once buried you now blesses you. Because you passed the test, not with perfection, but with faithfulness. And God always honors the faithful. This is your new posture, head held high, not in pride, but in peace. Shoulders back, not in ego, but in evidence. Heart open, not in naivete, but in wisdom. Spirit ready, not in fear, but in fire. You are walking in divine rhythm now. Every step is ordered. Every moment is marked. Every detail is divine because heaven has released what hell tried to delay. And this is just the beginning. The pages ahead are filled with promise. The doors ahead are filled with destiny. The days ahead are filled with divine surprises. You will see God move, not just around you, but through you. Your story is now a seed. Your voice is now a trumpet. Your journey is now a blueprint for those behind you. Because when God raises someone, he always uses their scars to heal others. So don't play small. Don't dim down. Don't retreat. You have permission to shine, to rise, to overflow. Because this light is not self-made. It's spirit-lit, and it cannot be stolen. God says, I'm putting fire in your feet, oil in your hands, power in your words, and healing in your story. People will feel me when they're near you, not because you preach, but because you carry me. That's the real reward, me in you. That's why I tested you. That's why I chose you. That's why I've been watching every moment. And now I say, well done, my child. You passed. Now go. Go into the places you used to hide from. Go into the dreams you buried in fear. Go into the assignments that once felt impossible. Go into the calling that's been waiting for your yes. Go not as the same version of you. Go as the refined one, the released one, the ready one. Go with heaven behind you. Go with Jesus beside you. Go with fire within you. Because this world is not ready for what you're about to release, but heaven is. And God is smiling, not because it's over, but because it's just beginning. This is your moment. This is your mantle. This is your mission. You passed the test. Now walk like the one who did.